back, baby, with another episode of WeAreBoard Podcast. This week, we'll discuss the best games we played in 2024, sharing the ones that left the biggest impressions on us over the past year. Each of us highlights one standout game, and we'll let you know two more that we all kind of share in agreement. In our Spotlight of the Week, we dive into the fascinating world of math traits. What are they? Are they mysterious? How do they work? Are they magnets? And why might you want to give one a shot? We'll break it all down, break it down, and share our experiences with this unique way to expand and perhaps refresh your board game collection. Now get ready and join us for another fun chat about board games. Who knows, you might find your next great game to hunt down. Hello, bonjour, hola everybody. Your hosts, Tona, Victor, and Aaron, we're back for a second round. How are y'all?
Good, dude. Chilling.
Living large, baby.
Getting knee deep in some board games or what?
Yeah, we just knocked out, I want to say 3 board games in the past, 2 weeks for me and my board game cruise. And so, yeah, happy to get into that in a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah, literally got some BGs going on tonight. Actually played some Azul with Sarah, just watching the playoffs.
Oh, Azul.
Best way to watch the playoffs, dude.
Well, I shouldn't have watched the playoffs, but yeah.
Oh, man, Azul, that's crazy. It might make a little mention, actually, here in another segment. That's really interesting. You know, I've also been playing some games, you know, some online, some offline. Even getting one that I'm kind of excited for. Maybe we'll see in a future episode. A little Kickstarter arriving, you know. Yeah, and it's not the second copy of Shazam, you know.
Not going to pay $90 for shipping again?
Yep. So you know what? I'm glad we're all doing good. And so with that, let's go ahead and get into that off the shelf. Get those board games off the shelf of shame and let's get them to the table. So Victor, what you been playing off the shelf, bro?
I kind of surprised myself how much I liked fucking Scout, which I saw a bunch of you guys play at WabCon 2024. Quick plug, tickets for WabCon 2025 going on sale soon. There's an early bird discount. You get $100 off if you get those next month. But yeah, so I saw you guys playing it, and I was like, a card game, a trick-taking game. I mean, that's not really my thing. But you know, y'all do you. But then I actually ended up playing it last week, and I was like immediately like, oh, I'm into this. But yeah, so it's the flavor of it, I think, is like you're running a circus, and you're trying to put on the best show or whatever. You're competing with other people. So everyone gets dealt a hand of cards that goes 1 through 10, and you can flip them, and it might be a different number. It almost always is, I think. So on one side it might be 10, on the other side it might be 3. So when you get dealt your hand, you cannot change the order of it at all, and you have to decide if you want it up or down, right? Because that will change the numbers that you hold on to. So you kind of get a choice at the beginning. And then on your turn, you have to either play a trick or, play whatever it's called in trick-taking games. So if you're starting it off, you can put whatever you want, right? If you're going second, you have to beat it. So you have to, you can put down like one number, right? Or you can put down 2, like a pair, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. Or you can put runs, right? A 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then there's just like a way that it beats the previous ones, whichever has the highest number, all your typical stuff. But if you can't beat it, you have to pick up one of the cards that's on the trick right now and put them into your hand. And that's the one time you can choose where it goes, right? So you might have a 3 and a 5 next to each other, and that doesn't do anything. But you're like, you know what? I can't go. I have to pick up. Here's a 4. I'm going to pick up that 4, put it in between. Now it's a 3, 4, 5. And then later you play that 3, 4, 5. All your cards next to it come together. And now maybe you got like a pair, like 2 9s that were far apart are now right next to each other. You got a 9, 9. Oh my God, dude. The combos were just delicious. in this game.
I've played it plenty of times. It's really intuitive how the order doesn't change unless you're scouting basically, right? And you can't forget that it's an incentive for you to want other players to pick up your cards because then you get
Yeah,
you get a
you
dollar
get a dollar
out of it. So it's a little bit of wheel and dealing as well because you're trying to make sure that people are using your cards that you're basically playing in order to get some of that revenue back, you know?
Yeah, and it's kind of like up to you. Even if you can beat the trick, you could choose to I think the action's called scout versus show. So you can choose to scout and take a card, even if you could beat it theoretically, just to build up like a juicy ass show for your next turn.
And I really like also that they include the scout and show, right? That's a thing it's a token that you can use once per round.
Yeah, you can pop that.
Yeah, it's there was a lot of replayability on that one. I feel like the theme, for me, kind of I could leave it or take it. I think it's just more alongside the mechanics of how to be able to play those pairs runs because it kind of follows the poker hands, right?
Yeah, it's like a run of 3. It's less than a 3 of a kind, but it's more than a pair. And then if you have the high card, right? If there's 2 pairs, a pair of 3s beats a pair of 1s.
Right. Have you gotten a chance to play it, Aaron?
I have not. I've seen it, just like you, Victor. I've seen so many people play it, but this kind of encourages me to play it. I'm not like super into trick taking games. I think like the only trick taking game I'm into is like actually like Hearts, and then like we play Dead Man Draw. Like it's a classic WoB classic 2-player game that me and Tona used to play a lot. But yeah, I think I'll be happy to check that out.
Yeah. How many players did you play it with?
I played with 3, which actually seemed pretty nice. I think I saw y'all like Frankenstein it into a 7-player game. So it seemed like it was very long, but yeah, with 3 it was like snappy.
It didn't work well with 7, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I think the max is supposed to be 5.
Yeah, I definitely recommend 3 to 4, to be honest, because again, you don't want to be waiting forever on your turn, and it's simple, but it's got a lot of replayability on it.
Yeah, and it's funny too because we first started playing, we just like learned the rules, started playing, blah blah blah, and it wasn't until after that I was like, hey, so what was the theme of this game? Now that I know I like it, give
flavor.
me
That flavor.
give me the rundown.
What about you, Aaron? You said you've been playing a couple. Any off that shelf of shame?
So this is a game that I showed to my group. It is called Argent the Consortium. It's a 2 to 5 player worker placement engine building game from Level 99 Games. So basically, the flavor is you are a chancellor of like the School of Magic, and like the head magician in charge is leaving, and he's just like, "Yo, who gonna take my spot?" As like head magister, homie. And so you and the other players are basically vying to court the judges who are trying to elect the next chancellor. So you're going to have like 10 objectives you're vying for, but 8 of them are hidden. So 2 victory conditions are known, and like you have to put these things called marks onto the hidden objectives to like learn what those are. So throughout the game, you'll be going in one direction, but you might put a mark on another card, and it's just like, oh, well, it's like whoever has like the most money. So you start like hoarding gold. So it's just one of those like hidden intrigue work replacement games that I just like really, really, really enjoyed. I ended up winning. And it's one of those things where I won by like quite a bit, and it just feels dirty because it's like when it's everybody's first time and you're the person who's teaching. It's just like you guys had fun, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned worker placement on this. Can you explain like how that mechanic works like within that game?
The board is actually like a modular board of like 8 spaces, right? So on those 8 spaces, it goes from top to bottom. So like the top spot is like the most lit. So obviously you want to try to like vie for the top spot, but you have to like pay this special resource. It's called a crest. In order to get crest, you have to increase your influence points, and there's places on the board where you can just simply increase your influence points. But it's one of those cool games where like you place your worker, after everybody's done placing your worker, then you execute the task. And then the tasks are from left to right, top to bottom. So it's like if you place your worker in like kind of like two scrub positions in the beginning, you build up income to like actually cash out your homie who's in a better position on the board at the end. Um, they also have interesting workers. So like all the mages have special powers. So you have one mage who is like a red mage who can wound people on the board and just like take their spot, like just straight up soul snatch them, and then they go to the infirmary. There's green dudes who block the red dudes from being able to do that to them. There's blue dudes that can pay the special crest in like actual gold. And then there's these black mages that could quote unquote shadow people. So if you have a spot at the top, only one person can fit in that specific worker placement spot. But if you put a black dude up there, he shadows them, and so he also shares that spot. So yeah, that's kind of how like that worker placement component goes
Okay,
into it.
okay, that's cool. And how many players did you play with?
So we played with four. The game took about 2.5 hours. So I think it's one of those games where it's a slow burn. So in the first like 1, 2, 3 turns, they were like the group was like learning, but there's only so many actions you can do. Throughout the game, you can buy spell cards that give you more actions, and like you have faculty members you can buy to do like one-time actions. So at the end of it, like you could possibly like fit like maybe 6 or 7 actions into your turn if you really want to. But the rounds are player directed. So they have these little bell cards. And so as an action on your turn, you can take one bell card and do like a pretty scrub action. But when that last bell card is taken, the round just ends on whoever that person is. So if you see like me with like 19 actions, like you can tabletop and be like, hey, let's just take these bell cards and like limit how much he can do.
Yeah.
It's bell time.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, it definitely sounds like a fun time, and I mean, sounds like it's a little bit on the heavier side as well when you're playing it. So that's Argent the Consortium. I was gonna say, for my off the shelf, I'm gonna take us back in time to 2015, but seems like Argent the Consortium was also made in 2015, so that's pretty funny. The game that I finally took off my shelf was Adventureland. Adventureland is designed by Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer. They kind of duo designed this. I mentioned them because they actually are pretty popular in the board game community. Kramer designed El Grande. I know we've played that quite a few times. And then Michael Kiesling, he designed, Azul, Heaven and Nail. So he's got some heavy hitters under his belt as well.
He's got some bangers.
Yeah, I got his Paris Kickstarter.
Adventureland is one of the games that I've had in my shelf of shame for longer than I want to admit. Probably bought it when it had just come out, so I guess almost a decade later, I finally got this game off my shelf. Ironically, mold free. All the tokens were there, so that's good. It's good. Always good to open up a game that you haven't opened in forever. That's still in shrink wrap. Everything's still there. But basically, Adventureland ends up being this king is recruiting these adventurers. Basically, the kingdom and the forest, it's being invaded by these monsters. The object of the game is you basically have to collect coins, I believe. And so what ends up happening is you have to progress through this grid. That's the board, right? It's basically a grid, and it goes from like A through F and then like 1 through 12 or something. I don't actually remember the actual specific, but it's basically a grid. And as you get like 5 travelers, and they all have starting spaces from 1 to 6, and then A through E, basically, right? And so basically, the whole point of the game, right? What makes this game quote unquote cute, or however you want to say, is when you travel with your adventurer, you can travel as many spaces as you'd like, right or down, but you can never go up or left. So you can never go back. You always have to go right or down. So basically, all the players will always end up on the bottom right, which is where the kingdom is. But as you're traversing, you're basically picking up like different gold. There's herbs. There's also like a sea serpent that might attack you as you're like traveling through the river. If it's invoked, it might attack you and kill your hero. Um, we played it. It basically took about maybe an hour. The whole like to teach was probably about 20 minutes. So like if it's something that you want to get out on the table and just play, and not take too long, almost like a filler game, but not really. This game's pretty fun. Comes with 3 different adventures. We only played the first one, and after the first one, you kind of get the gist for it. You don't really have to basically play anymore unless you want to. For me, it kind of just fell flat though. I think it's a pity because I think maybe because I waited so long to get it off the shelf, it kind of has some impact to me not liking it as much. Because again, it was just kind of like, okay, well, it's great that I get to travel, like go right and then down, because you want to move to like wherever the tokens are on the board, right? And so you're trying to beat other people to them as well. But again, it was just kind of like a little too simple in my opinion. Maybe if you're playing with like people who are just getting into board games, then maybe. Yeah. It was. And again, there's like monsters you can fight with your adventurers and stuff. You can like pick up like cohorts to basically like help you fight people, but then you also get points if you don't use them and stuff. So it's just kind of like, I mean, I can respect the game, but for me, I was like, well, I'm glad I played it because now I know that it probably won't stay in my in my shelves a lot longer. But I mean, I feel like there's just better fillers out there.
Well, it's interesting too playing games like that from 10 years ago, because like there's a lot of classics that are still around for good reason, right? But there's a lot of games that come out in a given year that are just like, well, it's cool, but like probably like in a 5 years or so, people will kind of forget about it. So like playing those kinds of games from 10 years ago, you see like the difference in board game technology we've gotten to these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane how much everything has progressed.
And like, I guess one of the reasons why I was also like kind of hyped to get this played is because, this game has won apparently the Spiel the Jars 5 times.
Wait, how? What do you mean?
So it won like basically the different categories.
Oh, 5 different categories.
Yeah. And so does it hold against time? In my opinion, not so much, because there are, like I said, better fillers out there. But I mean, if you have it and you want something light, I mean this wouldn't be a bad one to check out for sure. I will say the artwork is a little wonky. It's just I don't know if I'm like the biggest fan of the artwork, but I mean it's very minimal to begin with. So
It looks like that old World of Warcraft art.
Yeah, it does. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, I'm messing with it. I'm messing with it. So a big thing I liked when it comes to talking about like older games is there had to be a good foundation in order to create something better. So although you might not have liked Adventureland, what is something that might be similar, either like Adventureland or just a personal good filler game that you would like to plug?
I'd probably have to go with like Cryptic.
Oh yes.
I would say,
Oh,
maybe it's a
dang.
little more difficult than Adventureland, but it was definitely one that I played maybe last year. And, it still kind of has those hexagons. Maybe you're not trying to adventure. It's still a quick game, and you're able to kind of use logic to try and figure out where the monster is. So I'd say that maybe Cryptid would be a game that I'd prefer to play over Adventureland, for instance. I mean, granted, different games, maybe even different mechanics, but around the same playing time, I'd say. So, yeah, that's probably something that I'd probably default to be honest.
Yeah, I think not only can I like co-sign Cryptid, but So Clover is a game that consistently either hits the table before we start playing or after we start playing or after we finish like a pretty heavy BG. So basically So Clover is a 3 to 6 player word association game where you have like these clovers that basically hold up to 4 little tiles. And on the tiles, there's a word. And so you secretly make one word association with like 2 words that represent like that clover branch. So if I have like fireman and I have cocoa, I have to make one word that associates fireman with cocoa. So I could do like hot, for example. And then you do that 3 more times. You take off all 4 of the little bands, and then you get another card, like or another tile. You shuffle it all up. Once everybody's done, you split yours in the middle, and everybody has to rebuild your clover based on the clues that you give. So I always think that that game is not only like a good brain burner slash brain starter, but it gets the whole club involved. Whether you're an like inexperienced board gamer, like hardcore board gamer, this is just one of those like palate cleansing games that always say off the shelf consistently.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, people love that, and I get so many requests for that too. Like if we're just hanging out with a big group, it's like 9 times out of 10, someone's like, I mean, we could play So
Oh
Clover.
yeah. And I mean I think for the last 2 WobCons, right? WobCon 2023 and 2024, we've basically homebrewed it so we can play with even more players by having 2 copies of it going on at once.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's insane. Everybody I show So Clover to, they end up buying it, and it's just like, well, this clover's just spreading, this garden's spreading.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, Adventureland is maybe a hit of its time, but for me, it probably will not be on my shelf for that much longer. Wob Thoughts, the main topic of the episode. And now here we are for the meat of the episode. Top games played in 2024. Man, there's just so many games that, hit the table, hit the online BGA table, hit the tabletop simulator table. It was hard for me to come up with just one to be crowned as the king or queen of 2024. What y'all think?
Yeah, dude. 2024 had I feel like 2024 had a small list of bangers for like in year games, but like there were a lot of fire games between BGG, WobCon. Like there was a lot of fire games played.
Dude, this was the first year that tracked. I try to track every single play I did on BG Stats.
Ooh, that's a good plug right there. BG Stats, baby. Gotta get that.
Yeah, dude. And I have 101 different games that I played. That's like a new game like every 3 days. I don't know what's going on, dude.
You like board games or what?
Bruh.
I kind of fuck with them.
Kinda. I think this year was also the first year I started taking like BG hype and BG like research a little bit more seriously. So for games like Things in Rings, for example, like I was watching the YouTubes and just like continuously seeing people being like, "Yo, best game at Gen Con, like hypest game at Gen Con, most unexpected game at Gen Con, and like BGG and all that kind of stuff, or like of the fall and the summer." And so that was the first game where I was like, okay, people who I either follow or like I kind of like their views, they're liking this game. Let me go see if I can get this game. Okay, I got this game. Now I want to play this game. And then when we played it at WobCon, I was like, holy shit. Like from top to bottom of the funnel, like I saw it, researched it, educated myself, like outside of Kickstarter, and got this game, and like this game is a staple. It is fire.
Farm to table.
Farm to table. Yeah, so, I'm just curious, after all this research, after, mining through the games and games that were played in 2024 by all of us, just curious, Aaron, what is your number one game that you
So
played
my number
last
one
year?
game was it was not as farm to table as Things and Rings, but it was Kickstarter farm to table. It is a game called Explorers of Navoria, and it's a 2 to 4 player bag drawing tableau building game from Dromda Games. So I kickstarted this one for the expansion that also allowed you to have 5 players. And then we played it at BGGCon, and that went off like a raging success. So the flavor is in Explorers of Navoria, like there's like this council of Navoria that has decreed that these new continents need to be explored, and you and your homies need to, explore them, and whoever explores them the best, they're going to be like head honcho of this council. So the thing that interested me the most about playing this game was it had a really interesting like turn mechanic concept. So to play the game, you draft action tokens from this bag, and then you'll select one of the two, and then you take that specific like row of actions. So the tableau building comes in the part where there's 5 rows of cards that are separated by color, and they do different things. Some give you resources that are basically like the use now to do something else later. Others are like in-game conditions. Others, like the third ones, are that you move on this track. So like there's like the exploring part is there's 3 lands that you have to like send your little explorer to, and every time they hit like a specific checkpoint, whenever the round ends, they go to whatever the last checkpoint is. So if you never hit a checkpoint, you got to go back to the front of the line. And as you're progressing down the checkpoints, like obviously you're getting more in-game resources to continue, with the whole engine building thing. And so everybody does like essentially clockwork, like they take their turns and clockwise. Once all of the like the tiles are out of the bag, then in reverse clockwork, you put the tiles that were used for the actions onto the board, and you get like end of round bonuses. And so the person who went last has like the complete lay of the land on all the end round bonuses, like the first, like the best end round bonus. So if you really like map it out, it balances the whole niche where it's like, does it suck to go first, or is it great to go first? Should you play in the middle? All that stuff is like kind of tailored to just kind of like what your gameplay is and like how you kind of see the board. So we played the game. It was amazing. Everybody really, really liked it, and it's gonna probably hit like it's probably gonna be off the shelf the next like 2 or 3 weeks when we have like a little weekend gaming convention. So that was Explorers of Nomoria, and that was my number one game of 2024.
Man, the artwork looks like off the chain. It's like they turned up the contrast all the way up on it.
The artist is also the designer, which is crazy.
Yeah, getting high off his own supply. I look at it as just like this is what I think. Like when I see Root, this is what I think. Like it's a lot more
Looks very
cartoony.
Rudy.
Yeah, Root, it's like they're cartoony, but like they're in that like oldie time, so it makes it kind of like a little bit more serious. But like this is literally just like cute animals doing cute exploring. Like they're almost like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. It's like that type of vein of seriousness, and it's also not like that complex of a game because you're always going to be allowed 3 actions and then 3 actions in the back end. So the only real, I guess, like brain wrinkles you'll have is reading the cards and like just figuring out what your engine wants to be. Like, do you go full exploring and all you're doing is sending your guys into the forest and into the deserts to rack up those in-game points as well as out of game, like the in-game win conditions? It's up to you. It's a super open ended game, and it's also quick, so you're not having to do like 3D chess of like planning out, like mapping out all these moves. You execute, and then it's just like, what do you do to maximize points? So it takes a lot of the analysis paralysis out.
Oh, that's what I did. You read my mind. I was gonna say. So that's yeah. Get that AP out of here. Get that AP out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like it offers you like, hey, like there's 5 rows of cards you can choose from, but when you go into the bag, it's like, oh well, here are 2 options. Now, where there may be a little bit of AP is when you select one of the tiles. Well, what happens to the tile you don't select? It goes into the middle of the board, and so the next person they'll draw 2 tiles, and if they don't like the 2 tiles they have, they can pick the tile in the middle and then put the 2 tiles in the back, like in the middle as well.
That's awesome. And I guess the one question that I have, right, and it's just something that I guess I find myself kind of getting a little bit exhausted from. All these cute animals, I feel like that's a common theme in BGs these days. They saw the hype, Root introduced it, Everdell came through. So let me ask you, like, how do you feel about that constant theme in BGs?
I think it's good because I think it's good to bridge the gap on like important stuff. So, like for example, Zuvadis. Let's take for example, it is a Reiner Kinzia game. It's like a political intrigue game, and it's a really good way to teach you how voting works and like the power of voting and the power of your words. So it's stuff like that where it's like these are pretty advanced, good, critical thinking life concepts that I think are pretty chill that people can learn. But it's also just like also cute enough and non-intimidating. You know what I mean? Like it lowers that intimidation level. All 3 of us are not intimidated by like heavy board games. You know what I'm saying? If the board don't look like a portfolio quarterly spreadsheet, then we barely
Shit.
messing with it. But understanding that we are not necessarily the people who need to be sold to play board games, I feel like they're just trying to like capitalize off that COVID momentum where they're just like, okay, people are like looking at board games as not this ostracized like D&D thing. Like board games and D&D now have a very, very distinct divide. And so they're like, hey, we're board games, and like, look how, not necessarily like inclusive, but like, look how cute this is. Look how easy to pick this up. And like, look how much your kids would love it. The marketing of it, I completely understand. And, it's like high tides rise all ships. So like if more kids and more parents and like more people are getting into the hobby just gets better by default.
Well, I'm all for it because like the main themes that used to be in every single game is space and European man colonizing brown people in the new world. Because a lot of board games it's like all about like exploring, finding new things, like racing to like get to somewhere first. So all these things kind of like they kind of go well with like exploring new lands. And so space, right? Because you're like colonizing the new frontier, and then like an actual history, Europeans. So I think basically people are just like, well, this game is really going to work with space for obvious reasons. It's really going to work with like colonization for obvious reasons, but also animals. There's a lot of like nature, and what if animals were smart and they start colonizing shit, but they're cute. So it's like a new third thing from the usual like Puerto Rico kind of games and space games. So yeah, it seems like it's kind of like it's replacing especially like the colonial games. The space games are still around.
All right, and that's Explorers of Navoria. Again, I like the colors, so it's definitely there to check out. Victor, what about you? What's your top 2024 play of last year?
Well, speaking of root, I went with Oath, which is not like the sequel necessarily, but it's the next game from the makers of Root. Designed by Cole Worley, art by Kyle Farron, who invented the cute animals genre, published by Leader Games. So what's funny is I, towards the end of 2023, we've been playing a lot of Root, really into it. I kickstarted the new expansion for Oath, because I wanted Oath, but there was this new expansion coming out. So I backed it, and then using that, I was like, also give me a copy of Oath once I get the expansion.
Yeah.
They did a really lit thing where they were like, okay, cool, everything's funded. Everyone who got just a copy of Oath, we're just going to go ahead and send that now. And then you can play Oath. But the expansion is going to take a while for you to get.
The homies.
Yeah. So we got it. And I was like, oh shit, we could just play Oath right now. And what's funny is that we got ARCs maybe like a month or so, 2 months after.
Yeah.
So we ended up only playing a couple games of Oath because we switched over to ARCs because it was a new hotness and all that.
Yeah.
Which ARCs, I don't know, it's a close second for me. But I kind of like, I feel like more excited to play Oath than ARCs, if I'm being honest. But yeah, so Oath, it's definitely a very long game. It's kind of like a legacy game. And it's like economic, war, politics, all that good stuff. But so the point of the game is to meet a victory condition. And to start the game, you're going to have one of four. So the very first game, you just kind of pick someone randomly, I think. But future games, whoever won the previous game will be the chancellor to start. So the first game, it's random. We just picked up. I think I was the chancellor our first game.
Gotcha.
So whoever's the chancellor is like the current king of the land. And they have an oath that they have to keep. And the oath is tied to how they won the previous game. So the oath might be control the most territory. And as long as you control the most territory as the chancellor, then you are meeting the winning condition. Starting round 5, you can roll a die at the start of the turn. If and it's like 1 through 6. If you get a 6, game ends, you win. Let's say you either don't meet the condition or you don't roll a 6. Future rounds, it starts getting easier, where it's like now you just have to roll a 5 or a 6. Now you just have to roll a 3. And then if it gets all the way to the end of round 8 and you're still holding the oath, then you win. But it makes it like it's like a clear and present danger to everyone else, where they can look at you and see that you're holding the oath and talk amongst themselves and say, we need to get this motherfucker's territory just in case he rolls a 6. But you're like, well, maybe don't go all out. Don't overextend yourself, because he does have to roll a 6, right? So you're kind of playing your odds. So that's one of the oaths. Everyone else at the table is basically a rogue faction within the kingdom. And the way you win the game is there's a deck of cards that you can go through and find. It's like cards you can play. You can play them to certain territory tiles so that they're there for anybody to use, which is like a little cheaper to do. Or you can play them to like your own personal supply. But you can only ever do that 3 times, and they're called your advisors. But as you're going through that deck, some of the cards in that deck are vision cards. And those cards, they have a different back, so you can tell when you're going to draw one. So when you draw one of those, you keep that a secret. You keep that face down. And that is a new winning condition that you yourself can meet. And there's 4 of them. One of them's holding the most territory also. One of them is having the people's favor, which is basically you are like the richest motherfucker. You have to have a lot of money. It's basically like you like just paying people out, being a socialist, throwing money around, giving people free healthcare and shit. The other one is I forget what it's called. It's something to do with secrets, but basically you're just like the rumor mill. Like you just have fucking dirt on everybody, and you have to maintain having dirt on everybody. And there's a 4th one. I don't remember exactly what it is right now. I think it's like having artifacts and relics and shit. So the collector, the fucking magician. So initially the game starts off and everyone's like, let's just fuck with the chancellor, right? So there's a board, and each space on the board someone can control, but there's 3 different regions. There's the cradle, which is where the chancellor lives, basically. Then there's a province, which is like a little out, and then there's the hinterlands, which is like way out there. So traveling between the regions takes more movement based on how far it is from the cradle, right? So from the cradle to the province is not a lot. From the cradle to the hinterland is pretty far. From the hinterland anywhere else is a lot. So it kind of like starts feeling like very thematic, where like in the cradle, the chancellor's just like moving around everywhere. And someone in the hinterland, even moving within the hinterland or like out of the hinterland, they're just like, bro, he's all out there in the boonies. I'm not going to the fucking hinterlands, man. I ain't got time for all that. But you can start playing different cards to the different spaces and really start mixing shit up. You can like play a card that's like a fort. So now you can defend that space much more easily. You can find like ports and rivers that makes travel much faster. And then it's all about getting your resources. So there's one resource called favor, which is basically like money. You need to spend money to raise up troops. Then you have one called secrets, which basically lets you trigger special abilities on all the cards that are in the game. So it's kind of like gives you the ability to trigger all sorts of insane shit. And then the combat is fucking spicy, because like it's like a classic cold worldy thing, right? It's same in Root, same in Arcs, where combat benefits the attacker. So it's a very good idea to be aggressive, because a lot of these kinds of war games, people are like kind of scared to fight.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work, it's risky.
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, attacking is the fucking move. So it's a brutal game, dude. Because like when you attack, you can yank people's chains. So if
Ooh,
they
do
have like a
tell.
really sweet, if they have a really sweet artifact, or if they have a lot of territory, when you attack, based on how much like extra damage you do, you can well, what you do is you announce what you're trying to yank. You're like, okay, I want to steal these 3 territories, and I want to yank 2 of your chains. And based on what they've decided to attack is how much defense you get. And so then, it's kind of their choice, right? If they just attack 1 territory, that's kind of easy. They'll probably end up getting it because you're only defending 1 place. If they're attacking multiple things, it's all or nothing. But if they get all that shit, oh my fucking god, dude, it's sweet. So then what's spicy is that as the chancellor, you can ask someone to bend the knee, and you're like, hey man, hey brother, you're not looking so good out there, my guy. Why don't you come on home to Papa? All you gotta do is kiss this ring. But once they do, they become part of your army, and you're basically like one player from the board's point of view. So it makes the chancellor more powerful. It makes that player a little bit more powerful. But now it's tricky. So if the chancellor wins the game, then you check to see if anybody who's bent the knee to him, if anybody meets a certain condition, which is usually like have more artifacts or have more secrets. It kind of varies based on the oath. Then the people are like, well, the chancellor wins, but we kind of like the heir a little bit better, than the old ass king. He's fucking old news. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want people to bend the knee, but you don't want someone powerful that's going to end up stealing your fucking victory. So it's all fucking politics. It's all fucking war. And it's, the classic woodland animals art and shit. And after you finish, it kind of lives into the next game. So all the cards that were part of your advisors, they all have different suits, right? So there's a suit that kind of focuses on deception. There's one that focuses on woodland animals. There's one that's magic. There's one that's discord, basically like fascism. Yeah. So whoever wins the game, the cards in their suit, you draw more from the box and put them into the game. And then you get other cards from the suits that weren't in theirs and remove them from the game. So whoever wins, the game, like going forward, will look more like their advisors. So
Their philosophies.
Yeah, dude. So the game will kind of evolve and become like, magic will go away in favor of like fascism, if that's how you play. And so that was one of the things that we were discussing. Like, it would come towards the end of the game, and I'd tell my friend, like, hey man, you gotta help me out. Do you want more fucking fascism in our world? Or do you want woodland creatures? The choice is yours.
So just to sum it back up, like this is a legacy game. Like this is better as a legacy game versus like a one-time standalone.
I don't think you have to like fully dive legacy into it, because like each individual game, it's like a really long, meaty, like interesting game, right? And you're supposed to, after every game, you're supposed to like write like a description, like the lore of what happened in your game. Which we started doing is we would put it into we started a Discord channel where we just put like, here's the lore of what happened in our previous game. We just kind of dress it up as like, David bent the knee to the kingdom and, blah, blah, blah. Cause yeah, it gets very thematic. It's not that important to play the future games. Like it's nice that the board will change. The next game will have the exact same board state from the previous game, where the Chancellor, all the territory they owned, stays on the map for the next game. Everything else gets replaced. So the next time you play, it's like the fucking Chancellor still has all that territory he owned, or, whoever won the game. So, like, it's nice flavor in that way, especially if you play with the same people. But you don't have to. You can play with different people the next time around. just the game itself will change, and you don't have to have the same people.
So does it have to change, right? What if you have new people and you just got done playing that certain scenario? Could you run it back with the new people, or do you have to pick up where you left off?
You don't have to pick up where you left off, actually, if you wanted to. You could just like reset back to the beginning anytime.
So it definitely sounds like there's a lot of replayability in it as well. Not just being a campaign game, but it sounds like it'd be a fun time even as a one shot.
Yeah, for sure. Because like, there's not really anything in the game as far as legacy, like normal legacy games, right? Where it's like, oh, read this paragraph from the booklet, A12 or whatever. Like, there's no story built into the game itself. It's purely like, you remember that these lands, the battles you fought over this land the previous game, and this game it's going to be fucking different. And you find cards in the game and you're like, I remember fucking Isaiah last game just annihilating us using this fucking card, but now it's mine, or whatever.
I see. And so it sounds like this game also thrives a lot on the negotiation aspect. Is that something you'd agree on?
Oh, heavy, dude. It's all about, because like it's one of those games that if everyone decides to kind of take on somebody, more than likely they're going to be able to take him down. If the entire table wants to take you down, you're fucking toast. So it's all about politics and being like, hey, man, yo, trust and believe. I'm not going to win next turn. We just got to make sure he doesn't win.
Okay. That sounds spicy. So I guess that leads to my next question. Where are we putting this in the saltiness meter?
The saltiness meter. Well, yeah. So that's one thing. I guess if you're the kind of player that wants, if you're like fully into like Euro games, competitive solitaire kind of thing, where it's like, I just want to do my thing. I have my strategy. I have my engine I'm building. I have my resources I've worked so hard for. Like, you might not enjoy this game because it's all about fucking yanking chains and making alliances. Like, there's not really a way to just be like, oh, I'm going to do my own thing and, like, no one's going to mess with me. Unless you're able to, like, politically do that, which did happen our first game, actually. One of the players, I was Chancellor, and he was kind of attacking me from the hinterlands. And I basically, like, put him down. I was like, nah, you come at the king, you best not miss. So then we were just like, and he was like, visibly like, oh man, I'm fucked. And he was kind of like taking his turns, like, I mean, whatever, I already lost. And so we were kind of like, well, we'll just leave him alone. We don't want to mess with him now. He seems kind of unhappy. So now there were other players who were a threat. So our friend Josh was like coming in and picking up the mantle and fighting me. And he almost fucking killed me until I got another player, my friend David, to fucking bend the knee to me and like defend myself against Josh. So we're having this like these massive like three-way battles in politics, and we're like trying to get David to our side, blah blah blah. And we were kind of ignoring Isaiah because he just seemed to be like, just kind of on his turn, he would just kind of do whatever, and he was like, why not just get this game over with? And then finally, I put Josh down with David's help, and David's like, now the problem is David is trying to meet the condition to be my heir. So now I'm having to fight with David, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, like, it's hard. It's hard being on top. It's hard being the king. So I'm fighting with David to stop him from like snatching my victory. Yeah. Out of nowhere, it turns out this whole time Isaiah was building a giant fucking army. And we're like, oh my god. And we're like, we all have to work together. David, Josh, we have to put our differences aside and all come together and stop Isaiah. And we can do it. We have enough. So David goes, he does his part. I go, I do my part. And we're like, Josh, it's all up to you. You have to stop the menace from the hinterlands. Because he had a card over there that was, I I think it was called like a brothel or something like that.
Yeah.
Where like he was just over there just making babies for like years. We left them alone.
Mm.
And then we're like, all right, Josh, you have to stop you have to stop them from raping and pillaging our lands. And Josh was like, why would I do that? And we're like, Josh, no. He's like, what if I can use this to my advantage? Chaos is a ladder. We're like, no. And then I got pillaged. I got pillaged hard.
Man, that sounds hella spicy.
And then Josh tried to sweep in and like, get Isaiah from the back. Did not work at all.
got counter pillaged.
Man, yeah, that I've had that on my shelf of shame, so Aaron might have to come over one of these days so we can get that out, because that sounds like, honestly, that sounds like it's right up your alley, Aaron.
Yeah,
Trading and
negotiation
dealing.
games, political games. Yeah, wheeling and dealing, going to the Josh Bennett School of Business. Yeah, it's amazing.
So for mine, I also got multiple BGs in last year. And one really stood out to me, and I must have played it 40 times, and it's Obsession. Think you're Downtown Abbey. We're watching Downtown Abbey, designed by Dan Halligan. Basically, it's set in Victorian England, right? You gotta have a little bit of tea, some crumpets while playing this. Basically, we all, as you play, you basically get assigned a family, right? And you're basically trying to restore your estate to the grandeur that it once was by basically hosting all these like lavish events, trying to improve your property, trying to like network with the bourgeois of England, and basically, inviting all these prestigious guests, right? And so, it's kind of like a worker placement game, deck builder, tile laying game, where you're basically buying these different locations for your estate to try and get these guests to come to your house, right? And again, there are different types of guests that will come. There are some guests that actually bring down your reputation as well. There's a lot of different moving parts for it. Basically, the game will end, and the person who has the highest prestige amongst everyone else is basically the winner. And, there's different ways to kind of like point salad, right? Like a little bit of everything gives you points, gives you those prestige points. But again, the person with the most prestige is the winner. I love this game. Every single game I played, it ended up being different. You have the theme for this game. It just comes across extremely well. You have servants, you have valet, you have your handmaidens, and basically they report to the different kinds of guests. So basically, if it's a very prestigious woman who's coming to your house, then she's gonna need 2 handmaidens to accompany her. If you have, guys that are coming to your house, you're going to need a valet and some butlers. And based on the activities that they're doing, they're going to need specific servants to help them out and stuff. I couldn't get enough of this game. I've played this probably, like I said, 40 times. And it's every single game, depending on the family that you get, you kind of get like a different I don't want to say powers, but basically like you start off a little different, right? So you might get a family where you start off with a little more money, or you might get a family that basically, kind of start a little bit in the front of the prestige game. And so you're basically trying to choose the correct rooms for your estate in order to be able to kind of synergize that and be able to get more and more prestige points that way. Because at the end of the day, in order to build out your estate, just like in real life, what do you need? You need money to be able to pay for these things. So that's Obsession. Have y'all had a chance to play that?
Yes, I actually exclusively have played that with you, and I think I've been reserved as just like the designated dude who just gets blown out. It's actually like one of the games that I think is like super thematic. So when you have like these worker placement games, especially when you have like colored, like different colored vehicles, it's like, okay, so the green guy goes here to this car to do this, to do this, to do this. But not only the flavor, not only like does how Tony explain it work, where it's just like the really, really ritzy people need like a gang of homies just to like escort them to the pageant. But they're worth like a ton of points. Like it's super, super thematic. It also makes a lot of sense. I play this game to the best of my abilities. And like I think the closest I've ever gotten to Tony was like negative 25 points. So it's just like if you come to play with the king, best come humble.
But yeah, dude, I love how fucking thematic it is. It's really, I love how you're throwing like all these parties and having all these galas and building all your grounds, but it's like all purely for the fucking points. It just like, I don't know, it just like scratches an itch where I just think it's hilarious. Like how all this stuff is just like for prestige, which it kind of seems like it probably was, back then.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
And then I love the fucking there's even cards that let you fuck with other people that's just like spread rumors and shit like that.
Oh, you can steal their servants too. At
You
times.
can steal their fucking servants, dude. You can drive up the cost of labor. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think this game's really good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and like the different events that are, because then you'll get like a builder's day where you can buy as many rooms as you can if you can afford it, and like there's like different little things as you're kind of going through the different rounds that kind of unlock different things. There is one major complaint I have about the game, and it has nothing to do, I guess, with like once you're playing it and getting going through it. It's the rule book. I mean, man, it is a tough read. I feel like it was like a trend maybe or something where they try to kind of like teach you a game by first feeding you like little pieces of the game and then like adding more later and later. But at the end of it all, it just kind of seems like a very convoluted mess and none of it really connects well.
Yeah.
So, like, for this one, in fact, I had to go into BGG, and people, the community has created, like, user aids and basically reformatted the entire...
rulebooks.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
basically
God.
reformatted the entire rulebook because, again, like, I can see what they were trying to do, make it easier and streamline it, but...
Yeah.
At
Well,
the end,
that
it
strategy
ended up-
does work,
yeah.
though. Like, maybe not in this one,
Mhm.
but obviously. But I think, like, what you have to do is you have to take it, like, a step further, where you have literally two different rule books. Because that's how actually Oath is, for example, and Root.
Gotcha.
Because those are, like, very, very complex games. So they have one rule book that's, like, you're probably going to read this once, your first play. And it's like, this gets you enough to maybe do, like, your first turn, give you a feel for it. And then we have, like, the Bible, which is like, it's got an index. It's like a fucking encyclopedia. It's like, here's the page numbers for everywhere you're going to find these terms,
Yeah.
So once you've read the basic one and gotten your feet wet, then you just like refer to like the fucking Bible.
Hegemony is the exact same way, where it's like it teaches you how to play the game in like 2 pages, and then the rest of the book is just talking about like the lore and why each class and like strategies, and then they have a separate one where it's just like here is what every card does, and here are the situations that you may have frequently asked questions. I'm like, this is amazing. Plus, it's also just like games just should be required to have player aids because it's like I try to teach people how to play via the player aid, and then we consult the rule book for anything that's like anecdotal. You know what I mean? So it's like teach off the player aid, and then consult with the rule book for anything that's like basically 201.
Yeah, anytime I'm teaching a game and it doesn't have a player aid, someone always asks, hey, is there a player aid, please?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I
Yeah.
just think unless your game is like super simple, you should have something somewhere, especially if it can be like built into like a personal board you might have or something like that.
Yes,
That's like
yes.
goated. But
Oh,
there should
yeah.
always
Yeah.
be something.
Or games where it's like it's built onto the round marker. So like in Bitoku, for example, it's like when you move the little guy who progresses the game, there's like little icons under that shows like, hey, this is when you do cleanup. This is when you do actions. This is when you collect income. This is when you do, X, Y, and Z. Stuff like that that's
Mm-hmm.
on the board, that's like on the board of play. I also love that as well.
Yeah, and again, it reminds me more, of the mind management rule book. If y'all remember that, kind of how it's just scattered across the entire page, like 10 pages
God.
or whatever. So
Yeah, I
it's
think they
just
tried to invent a new system, and it just like
yeah,
did not work.
yeah, it's just hopping around everywhere. Yeah, not a fan, not a fan. But
Yeah,
the
I can
game
see what they're
itself,
trying to do.
once you get it, and once you're able to kind of see how it flows, man, yeah, I loved Obsession.
Oh, I love too. There is like the two family members from like the most like prestigious family in the land.
Mm-hmm.
I forget
Yep.
their names, but it's like Victoria and Robert, and it's like all these families were all trying to impress this family, and every couple of rounds they kind of change their preferences. They're like, I'm really into gardens now, and it's like, oh my god, everyone get gardens. You got to get Victoria's favor, or she's not gonna like you. So I feel like that adds like even more thematicness to it.
The Fairchilds.
Fairchilds.
Yeah, Charles and Elizabeth. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that in itself, right? Because you're trying to basically have the same, because each room you're building has like a different, I guess you could say, location, right? So you have like utility, or you have your greenery, whatever. And so basically every season, whoever has the most of those of that color ends up winning the favor of the Fairchilds. And these Fairchilds, they have so many prestige and so much money, that you want to have them so you can use them. And at the very end of the game, I think they're like worth, whoever gets them last, I think they're like 10 victory points or 8. So they're,
Yeah.
they're definitely worth getting for sure.
And I love how each turn is so thematic too, because like each turn you have to host an event with certain guests, and so when you're kind of announcing your turn, and then you have to be like, I'm having tea in the rose garden with Miss Havisham, Elizabeth, and Agnes.
Yep. Yep. And you need the servants too, remember, because if you don't have the servants, then you can't even host that event. Dude,
And
you
we
have no
3 handmaids.
Yeah, and you have no idea, how many times it's happened to me where I'm like, man, I'm about to clap some cheeks with hosting this event. And then it's like, oh, wait, I don't have a butler. And then it's like, well,
This
I guess I
motherfucker
passed
needs a
my
valet.
turn. Yeah, it passed my turn.
Oh, bruh, yeah. Passing your turn just feels like so scrub. It's like I want to do like one baller thing every turn, but it's just like when you kind of like over index on one turn, it's just like I don't have anybody like for like 2 turns. And like in those 2 turns, it's just like I just see everybody else getting like 10, 20 points, and it's just like, well, I hope my 15 points was worth it because I'm in the exact same position I was in.
Yup, yup. And that is Obsession. And now here's our top 24 games that we played that maybe are not in 2020, that didn't come out 2024. But why don't we start off with some courtesans there? And you gotta want to explain that?
Yeah, baby. So coming right off the tail end of Obsession, we're still staying in that whole, we gotta be people pleasers because Courtesans is a game where we're basically all courtesans who go to the queen's party, and who we show up with determines how many points we score at the end of the game. But during the entire game, you are in the queen's ear, whispering to her to let her know which families are hot or not. So the way the game works is you're gonna get 3 cards. There's 5 different suits, and the 5 different suits represent the families. And so essentially, how the board is set up is you have your own tableau, everybody else has their tableaus, and then there is the queen's table. So what you're going to be doing is you have 3 cards. So you will play one family card to the queen's tableau. If you put it above, that means that you're giving that family some hot, juicy gossip, like you're just gassing them up. You are making them hot in the queen's eyes. Or if you put them below the queen's tableau, that means these boys are scandalous. Avoid them like the plague. You're giving them a
Scandalous.
tally from the knot. Then with your other 2 cards, you have to play a card of a family into somebody else's tableau, and then you have to play a card into your tableau. So you can play the cards in any order that you wish, but you always have to send somebody to the queen's table. You have to send somebody to an opponent's tableau, and then you have to play somebody in front of you. And so the way the game works is you'll tally up at the end of the game however many people, however many cards are above or below. If there are a higher point value on top of a family, that means they're hot. So if they're hot, for every card that you have in your tableau, that's a point, and you'll count it. For every family that's not, that's minus a point. And then if there happens to be a tie, then that family is just kind of like, they don't give you any points, but they don't take any points away. Where it gets spicy is there's different type of cards. So like you have a royal card, which is like double the value of that one specific card. So if you play either a double card into your family, like into your personal tableau or into the queen's tableau, it counts for two, either for or against what that family's ranking. And then like at the end of the game, if you have a royal in your area, that's going to count for 2 points towards like your end game. There's assassins where you can put it into a tableau and then you get to kill anybody who's there. So if you put it into the queen's table, even if you're like playing a positive assassin in one of the families, you can kill a negative assassin. So that's another good way to kind of like quartel the odds in your favor. You can also play an assassin into somebody else's tableau and kill one of their family members. So if you see somebody pumping up the yellow family, for example, and they have like a ton of yellow people in their family, that's a good way to get some good player interaction with your opponents. There's also like a guard where he can't be assassined, but the real spicy thing is when we play these spies. So each family has 2 spies where all you do is you play it face down. You either play it face down in your tableau, you play it face down in somebody else's tableau, or you play it above the queen or below the queen face down, and that gets tallied up at the end of the game. And those spy cards, even if you get one, you can never look at it until the end of the game. So this was one of those games that I researched. I bought. It was from our friendly local game store. I bought like the second to last copy because as soon as Gen Con was over, this game was talked about a lot, and I can see why. This has like been glued to the table, kind of like Things and Rings and some other games we've talked about earlier. But yeah, I know you guys played Courtesans. What were your guys' thoughts about it?
Yeah, we played this at BGG Con thanks to you. You know, you brought it, you put it on the table, and at first, you know, it kind of like, okay. I mean, you know, pretty simple. You just play a card, see what happens. But like, kind of like you delved into, you start adding all these abilities, and then you start trying to see. Basically, you start trying to read people. Like, hey, wait, who are you really trying to win the favor of? You know, and there's so many different actions that can happen based off of all the player interaction that, yeah, it became spicier than I expected, and you know, for it being such a small little game, it packs a lot of heat.
Yeah, it starts off so, you know, nice and simple. Everyone's just like, oh, you know, I'm really into the green family, so I'm gonna up the green family. And it's like, oh, I'm into the yellow family. Oh, that's cool, that's cool. And then someone plays a fucking assassin on you, and you're like, oh, what the hell? They put your fucking green family in the not section of the queen, and you're like, we got beef now, dude. It starts getting. And then what happened to me was, I think everyone was like, the orange family, I think, was just like certified not hot, and we were all just dumping orange into like the bottom of the queen's table, and we're just like, yeah, man, none of us are into orange, right? And then someone gave me an orange card on their turn, and I was like, hey, yo, I'm not really about that, man. Next person gives me an orange card. I'm like, hey, yo, chill. Another person gives me an orange card, and I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe now that I'm locked in, orange family's not so bad. So I was just like, I guess I'm going orange, dude. I'd like make them hot as much as possible. But yeah, it's one of those games. I really enjoy how like you have to pay attention on other people's turns, because that's such a thing in board games. You know, people just kind of check out when it's not their turn and wait till it's back to their turn because there's like nothing for them to do. But like you're just sitting there planning your next move. Someone gives you a card and you're like, what the fuck? Or someone puts a card like bottom or top of the queen's table that you didn't want. So you're just like, you're always kind of engaged.
Oh, definitely. And kind of like what you experience, it's like you can start off this game with one mission and end the game with a completely different mission based on the cards that you're getting dealt by your fellow players. You know, it's that. I think that's where the beauty lies. It's like you're trying to just kind of stay afloat, better than everyone else, because the name of the game is how can I tank everyone while I'm still kind of succeeding.
Well, my strategy too was I started giving orange to one other player and was like, hey man, it's me and you, orange brothers forever. And I was like, okay, now that there's two of us, he'll also make orange hot. He fucking killed his own orange family members. It's like, god damn.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like all you have to do is just like play the averages because it's like one orange that ain't gonna kill me, especially when like all of my light blues are literally like light blue certified hot. It like the vote right now is 8-0, like just by math. Like blue's gonna be hot, so it's just like now I just gotta hoard all these light blues. So it's like you keep giving me oranges, that's fine, and it's stuff like that where like the win conditions always are ever changing. So it's just like you have to be on the edge of your seat and like actively engaged. And I really, really like those kind of mechanics in games.
And again, the artwork, doesn't really like play a huge factor into it, but it is a good art. It's yeah, it stays with the theme, and I just really like the simplicity of it, but I like all of the interaction within it too. I think definitely has a lot of replayability value, and coming from Pandasaurus games, like they made Q-Birds, they have that Faraway game, they made The Mine, the game, Machikoro. I mean, I feel like they haven't really been missing, I all those games have been, kind of hit the WobCon table multiple times because they tend to be the smaller boxes, but they stay there. Yeah, and they stay on the table. So definitely Courtesans is one that, definitely recommend to everyone. And there's a second one that, just this one was basically like the WobCon hit of the year,
God, dude.
Couldn't stop playing it. It literally hit from the very beginning. It was out on a pool table, and I don't think it ever left. It just kept getting played over and over, and that's Bino. Vic, do you have anything to say on Bino?
Oh my god, dude! Let me tell you a little story first of how I found out about this game. So this was January 2024. Go to a board game cafe, and we get some games that we know, blah blah blah, and then we go back to the shelf, and the guy at the thing, he's like trying to help, and he's like, oh, can I recommend a game? And we're like, oh yeah, sure. And he's like, I really like Exploding Kittens, and I was like, oh man, I didn't want to just tell him to his face. I was like, I don't want to play Exploding Kittens, my guy. So I just kind of like looked off to the side, and I was like, oh, Wandering Towers. We were gonna hit that. Yeah, let's grab this one. And we played that. That was heat. We go back, return it, and we're looking for our next game. And the guy comes back, and I think he didn't recognize me. And he comes by, and he's like, hey, can I recommend a game? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I thought maybe he remembered, and he would recommend a different game. And he goes, I recommend Exploding Kittens. And I was like, oh, no. He does not remember me. I was like, yeah, well, okay, think about that one. And I'm looking around, and I see this big white box, and I was like, what is that? Bino? And he was like, oh yeah, I don't know what that is. And then we grab the box, we open it up. It's a fucking soccer field in a box. I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck this game is, but this is what we're playing next. And it just like has not left the fucking table ever since. So Bino is a dexterity game. It's basically turn-based soccer. So think of it kind of like pool, right? So the soccer ball starts in the middle, and you just flick it with your finger. And you try to get it into the goal. Then the other person goes, and they try to flick it into your goal. The problem is that there's like these little metal pegs in front of your goal, kind of like forming your defenders. So it's pretty hard to like get it in there just straight up. You probably have to go at an angle and kind of bounce it off the walls into the thing. And you can get yellow cards if you like fuck with the table or if you touch it twice, kind of thing. So it just gets really intense because you're just like flicking it in there, and it's 1st to 7, and you can get fucking penalties. And if you get a red card, you lose one of your little metal pegs. You lose one of your defenders for the rest of the game. So yeah, we had a tournament at WabCon and just fucking turn on the challengers music, just blasting it. We had a group stage going into a knockoff tournament, and the thing that was great about the tournament was that in the group stage, I was in a group with our friend Isaiah, and like I've never beat Isaiah at this game because he's fucking, I'm like a good Christian 5'9". I got like normal sized hands. This man is fucking 6'4". He's got fingers that are like 10 inches long. So like, I feel like anytime we play, I'm just like, I think you have like a higher angle on the board or something. I don't know. He just like destroys me every time. So in the group stage, he gets first in our group. I get second. But that puts us on opposite sides of the bracket. First round of the playoffs, he goes up against our friend Brian. Upset of the fucking century. Brian had never played this game before that day. He beats him 7-0. It was like, what the fuck? He barely made it into the playoffs from his group. Like, he made about like 1 goal on goal differential. It was insane. He snuck into the playoffs, fucking slayed the dragon, and then he gets all the way to the final match, which ended up being against me. So I was like, dude, if you hadn't beat Isaiah, I'd be fucked. And then in the final match, dude, it came down to the fucking wire. I think it was like 7-5, 7-6. So, I got that Bino trophy. But
Oh, yeah, sitting on that shelf.
yeah, baby, never leaving the shelf. Well, until it gets snatched. WebCon 2025.
True. Yeah, first time played it at WopCon 2024. Victor brought his own custom Mexico Bino board.
Oh yeah, baby.
Got to we'll put some of those pictures on the show notes if you know what I mean, so people can enjoy the beauty. But basically, I fell in love with it. I mean, I think I played it like 10 times while we were there. It's just. I got knocked out by Josh's girlfriend Eunice. She completely just annihilated me. But man, it's so easy to pick up, and but so competitive at the same time.
Yeah.
And like you can really get into it. As soon as I got home, I ended up getting custom WeAreBoard Bino board. Because I wanted to represent. And then like maybe like a week later. They I got an email from them. They were like, hey, we have these mystery boards that basically, you pay $50 and we'll send you whatever we want. So I was like, yo, for $50, shoot, they're practically giving those away. So I got another one that's for like the Houston, I don't know,
Houston
whatever.
Dynamo.
That's it.
MLS.
Yeah, Houston Dynamo. Yeah. And so basically now I have 2 boards, just to share the love during the WopCons and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just a simplicity of flicking the ball, right? I mean, we don't really. I feel like probably dexterity games are the ones we least get to play. But this one's just, it can be so addictive. I even to the point where like I even followed them on Insta. Shout out at Bino. But
Bino.
basically, like I'm following and I'm seeing all their new boards. They in fact just changed the rule for the game where they no longer allow you to pinch the ball at kickoff. Because people got so good at pinching the ball and making it fly over all the metal pegs, the defenders, and going straight into the goal that they literally had to amend the rules in order to be able to, kind of keep the tournaments equally spicy,
puts an asterisk on my 2024 win because I was notorious for that. Not that I was any good at it. Like 70% of the time I flicked it out of bounds and got a yellow card. But
nah, brother.
10% of the time, shit went right in.
Yeah, nah. You got grandfathered in. So yeah, you're right.
It's good. I think there is a good comp curve to it because it was like sometimes you're just hot. Like I went to the group stage clapping cheeks and then just got ice cold against our boy Victor in the first round. Cheeks blown in the air. But that's bullet ball.
I had to
That's
do it
that's
to
that
him.
that's the heat of the game. Like it's also one of those games that's like super quick, and it has really good table presence. Yeah, Binio's lit.
Yeah, it can kind of draw a crowd. People will like sit and watch, and it's like entertaining to watch. I very rarely have people watch us play board games and enjoy it, but Binio, it's like, yeah, it's very watchable.
Yeah, this one also comes like when you order it comes like in a little like suitcase portfolio thing that you can travel with, and like you said, like if you have like you could even take this to like a bar or something and just have your group of friends, drinking and enjoying a nice cold beer while playing some Binio. It's like the perfect game. So
Yeah, I could see bars starting to carry this. And like another thing for it is that it's been a hit everywhere I've taken it. So I took it home like for the holidays for Christmas and played with my parents and my brother, because you can also play on teams, right? You can play 2v2, take turns. I guess you could play 3v3, 4v4. Might get a little, maybe too much, but 2v2 it's like a pretty good sweet spot also. Immediately I got home, my mom was like, "Where do I buy this game?" I was like, "Damn, she's not like a board gamer at all. I mean,
yeah.
she's into like random card games and stuff. But she's just like, we've played a lot of board games with her, and she's always like, huh, and eh. But yeah, Binio, she was all about it, dude. She was like screaming and like, goal. And then I took it to Sarah's family for Christmas also, and all her cousins, like there were bets being fucking placed. It immediately got
I
grimy.
love it. Got the over under.
Yeah, man. Transcends generations. That's Binio. Check it out. It's a fun one. And now I think it's that spotlight of the week. So Vic, what you got? What you got back there?
All right, I got some for y'all veteran gamers out there. So last week we were talking about the games that got us into games, good for like new people to listen to. Now a little something for the old heads.
Ooh.
If you got like a big old collection of board games running out of shelf space, we could never fathom throwing a game away, right?
Couldn't
But
be me.
there's games you probably want to get rid of. You might try to sell them. You might try to go on Facebook Marketplace, all that kind of stuff. And that works pretty well. But what you can also do is get into math trading. So math trading scared me off for a long time. Not that like I don't like math, I'll watch like fucking logic or math videos on YouTube for fun. But I was like, I don't know, it just sounds like what? Like you do auctions and you're like, in my head, I just imagine people were bidding on things with like formulas. And it's like, I bid square root of $2 or some shit. Or I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. But what it is let's say the three of us have games we don't want. I want the game Aaron doesn't want. I'm like, yo, Aaron, I'll trade you for that. He looks at the games I have. He's like, I don't want any of your shit. So we can't really make a trade here. He's like, but I want a game Tona has. And Tona's like, I want the game Victor has. So we can make like a little three-way trade, like some NBA kind of shit. So math trading does that automatically for you. And what's crazy is that this used to just be random, right? Because this is like a very complex problem to solve, right? Finding these trades. So like what you'll do is you'll go onto this this website, you'll put in all the games that you're willing to trade away, and then you mark which games you're willing to trade for. So you'll be like, okay, I'll take this game A that someone's offering. I'll trade half of my games for that, like 1-to-1, right? But these other games I think are too valuable. I wouldn't trade them for that. And then an algorithm goes through and finds like the optimal trade scenarios and they can either maximize users or they can maximize total number of trades. But it just finds like the perfect combination of trades where as many people as possible like have a trade involved. But yeah, before I think like 2007, what they would do is just have a computer brute force it and just try shit and just make random trade connections. Because you can imagine like as soon as like if like in the scenario where it's just the three of us and each of us has like one game to trade, we can brute force it and figure it out. if each of us had like 10 games and I'm only willing to trade 4 of my games for 7 of your games, it immediately becomes much more complex. So yeah, pre-2007, people just had programs that like brute forced it, and they were like, well, this looks like a good trade, and then if they don't like it, then they would run it again and see if they got a different result. But in 2008, some guy on Board Game Geek, I wish I could have his name in front of me, because he fucking solved this shit using like math proofs and whatnot. Like, he broke it down into graph theory. He used this thing called Dijkstra's algorithm, and it's like, this is mathematical proof that we can find the best possible trade if we do this and that. So anyways, you can go on Board Game Geek. There is a math trade announcements thread. So you can either go ship or no ship, right? So no ship means, hey, let's all like meet up in person, and once the algorithm has decided what trades to make, we meet up in person and we do that. That happens a lot at conventions. So like BGG-Con, everyone will sign up ahead of time. During BGG-Con, it's like, hey, let's all meet here from 10 to 11 a.m. and do our trades. Or you can do shipping trades, and it's usually kind of by country, right? So there's a US one that's like every month we'll do a trade. Once the trades get decided, everyone ships their game, and everyone pays for shipping when they ship, so that, you know, it all kind of works out. So yeah, so if you go on there, you can find a math trade near you. They have them for a lot of countries, like Romania. I think there's one in the UK. There's one in like the Benelux countries, the US. So yeah, so if you're like running out of space, you definitely don't want to throw away your games. And another thing that's nice is it's a good way to get games that are out of print. So I've actually gotten a couple games that way, where it's like, you can find this game online, but because it's like out of print, people are selling it for fucking $200. But then I traded, there's like the Sid Meier's Civilization board game. I traded my copy of Cosmic Encounter, which I do not want to play, for Civ. Like, rather than, you know, and then for also some of the expansions for Civ, which are very hard to find, and they're also like $200. I traded like a game that's just going to sit on my shelf of shame and not get played for like an expansion that's extremely hard to find. So yeah, so I think y'all done a little math trading. How do y'all feel about it?
So I took the crash course by Victor when he,
Same.
you know, I had looked into math trading when I first started going to BGG-Con. So this must have been like 2016 or something. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to lug around like all these board games that I have to give to other people. So then I was like, I don't think I'll do it. But then you, Victor, were like, yo, math trading. Here is my crash course. And I was like, all right. And so I started to look into it. I still haven't done it. The main reason for me not doing it is because at this point I'm like, I'm trying to get rid of board games, you know, and
Yeah.
the beauty of math trade is like you give some away, you get some back, right? So that's awesome if you want games that you want to trade for games you don't longer want. But for me, it's more of I just want to kind of get rid of some of these games, you know, that I'm definitely not going to play. Just need more space, really. So that's kind of why I haven't done math trade yet. But once I do have the space, I think I will look into it, you know, because especially kind of like you said, having those out of print games that you've been wanting to try here and there, you know, and of course, you know, there's like those holy grail games that like you definitely want in your collection. So man, I'd be willing to trade, you know, like 20 of games I don't want for like one holy grail that I've been wanting, right? So definitely I can see the huge incentives in that. For me, I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. Well, so you can do money. It pretty much works a similar way. It's annoying to set up all the money. But if you want money, like to get money for games, you can go and do that. People will list money. Unfortunately, they have to list like, here's $20 in PayPal, here's $30, here's $40. So then you have to mark that you want it. So it's a little bit more complex, but I do have a script for it, a little bit of JavaScript. It's like a little one-liner, and it'll like auto select all the money on the website that BGG uses. I haven't optimized it, so sometimes it like freezes your browser for a little bit.
Hey,
but
hey, we might still need to drop that in the show notes. That sounds like might be useful to some people. And again, I need to try that. And another caveat to doing the money thing is, I believe then at that point you do need to kick some back to Board Game Geek, which is fine. You got to support the community, right? I mean, without Board Game Geek, none of this probably would be around.
Yeah, they get a little
but that is one thing with if you're math trading for money. Board Game Geek will need some of that kickback, which is fine. But just another thing about that. Aaron, what about you? Have you gotten some epic trades with that math trade?
Bruh, math trades has ceased to amaze me. But it's also one of those things where it's like, I did it because there's like so many games I'm not going to play, and I want to like start culling down my collection. So I was looking at it as, hey, if I can sell like this group of games, so like my Dead of Winters, which are like still stuck to me. I was like, if I can sell all three of these Dead of Winters and get one game back, I'm down two games, and then I get a game that I really, really want. So nobody ever takes the bait for either Vast or Dead of Winters, which I'm still trying to get away from. But I have like the first match trade was cool because I gave up two games. I can't remember what they are, and then I got like a Bitoku DLC, so like an expansion of Bitoku. So I was like, oh, this is great because I can just put this expansion in the box. I'm down two games, and like my shelf space, we thrive in. And then the next month, it was like a huge one where it was like I traded away Dice Realms, I think Yellow and Yonksy, and I think Burgle Bros. And then I was getting back Flick 'em Up and the expansions, and Flick 'em Up and the expansions are out of print. So I was like, that's a W right there. Ooh. And then I was looking for this game called Millions of Dollars. Mm-hmm. And it was like the original print because I knew like the reprint was coming, but I really wanted the original. I got that in a box with goddamn like 8 more games. And I was like, this is completely defeating the purpose of what I'm doing this for. Jesus. And it was literally just like Garbo games, like grade 8 Garbo games. It was Exploding Kittens, like Anarchy Pancakes. Like it was like those kind of games. Like it literally was just like, hey, here is like this succulent steak. We're just going to wrap it in shit. You just got to wade through the shit. The steak, it's freeze dried. So like, don't worry about, you can wash it off and you can enjoy the steak, but you just got to take all my shit with me. And I was like, I feel like this might be like the move moving forward. It's just like, just have like a box of Garbo games to like free up some space and get like two games back.
Bro, he needed some sort of padding, He or she needed some sort of padding to ship you the board games.
Literally. It was like all those games were just cheaper than buying the bubble wrap to protect millions of dollars. And millions of dollars was worth it. Like 100% was worth it. And like getting Flick 'em Up by itself was like, I was like, oh, this is already a W.
Oh, dude, I was on that too. I was trying to get that copy of Flick 'em Up, and then when I saw you got that one, I was like, man, I'm happy for my boy, but fuck.
I wanted it. Yeah,
that Arthur meme, the wrist meme.
Yeah. That was me. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, look, like math trading could be super boomy because you can also I call it kind of game in the system, where it's one of those things where it's like if you know somebody who is like close to you. So like I have a friend who kind of buys just like hot games. He's kind of new into games. And I was like, well, brother, if you want to like he got like SETI, for example. And I was like, I mean, SETI's cool, but if you don't like it, SETI's hot as hell. So you put that in the math trade, my guy, you are going to be raking it in.
Battle of the ball.
So literally, it's almost just like there's meta in math trading because it's just like if you try to overpopulate the market, even though you might be willing, like me, like I had all 3 Dead of Winters, but like everybody has all 3 Dead of Winters. So it's like that value has completely tanked.
Yeah.
but it's for like the stuff like Yellow and Yonksy.
Oh yeah.
I think yeah, Estates. I just got rid of Brick and Mortar. Stuff like that. That's like a little bit newer and has like a bigger demand. Like that. That's the stuff you may wanna research because it's like, of course, you're not gonna come up on Exploding Kiddings and get something like Food Chain Magnate. That's just not happening.
Yeah.
But you kind of gotta figure out what the meta is, see what the people are wanting, and then like still put that up on the chopping block.
Yeah,
Oh
but you can get
yeah.
some good shit because people will value things differently, right? So
True.
like, someone might have a game that seems really hot, like SETI, but like because they don't want it, they kind of value it less, and they're willing to trade it for something, and you end up making these huge trade chains. So like, one of my favorite trades was at BGG Con, I think 2023 or 2024, I'm not sure. We got Bonanza for free, which is like, a game from like 90s, 2000s. I mean, it's from Uwe Rosenberg, so it's like, some heat. But like, four
Oh
of
yeah.
us got Bonanza. So like, two of my friends who live in Austin also got Bonanza. So we all got a free copy of Bonanza. And I was like, well, we don't all three need one. And also, we haven't even played it yet because, like, I don't know, we're just not that excited to play it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I put that up in the math trade, and I got fucking New Angeles for it, which is like,
Woo!
yeah, it's not like that hard to find or whatever online. People will try to price gouge you because it's kind of an older game. But I was like, bruh, I got this game for free, and I got New Angeles for it. Hell yeah, dude.
Not a bad trade. Yeah, and I will say though, Vic, you gotta play Bonanza. Look, it's definitely more of a
Oh, you
filler,
played
but
it.
bruh. Oh, bro, actually, funny story. Like I had forgotten, but Bonanza I actually played like I think like maybe a year or two after Munchkin, and I
Oh.
was like, "Yo, this game's really actually good. It's crazy. Like it's it's a good design, and it plays quick. I definitely recommend you at least try it."
Yeah, no, it does seem good, but like, we still have 2 copies of it here within the Austin homies, so it's like
Can't get rid of it fast enough.
me and Josh were both trying to math trade it, and it's like, well, I mean, one of us should have a copy. I guess it's gonna be James, so he's got the
It's a
official
Yeah.
copy.
race. It's a race to see who can math trade it first.
Yeah,
Well, that's math trading. Thanks for the crash course, Vic. Choo choo. It's that BG hype train. Gotta back another one.
So we coming at you with the BG hype with a few goodies. So the first one is something that's coming in soon that I'm extremely excited about. It is Galactic Cruise. So Galactic Cruise is a worker placement engine building Euro game for 1 of 4 players from Kinson Key Games. In Galactic Cruise, you and your opponents are running a space travel agency where you're building spaceships to make money. You're in charge of equipping the ships with different segments, developing new tech to make your ships better, building your workforce to actually like build the ships and man the ships and be employed in the ships. Then you got to do a little bit of marketing to schedule the cruises that go into space and advertise them, sell tickets. And when you launch, that's when your points, aka the profits, get put into your victory pool. So whoever does this the best and ends up with the most points/money, they win the game. So this is coming in, I believe, in the middle of February. They survived the tumultuous storms, and they are now in Los Angeles. The guys have had really, really good communication with us, talking about there's no disruption from the LA fires and all that good stuff. So it still should be here in time for Feb 2025, which was like their original projected. We're gonna get you this game, and it's so refreshing that. And I know it's like not in out of everybody's control to like like hey, we're gonna in Kickstarter you normally say hey we'll probably get this to you by this date, and like they're actually fulfilling it. So I'm used to Kickstarters coming in like legit 3 to 6 months after they were proposed. So having a game that comes in on time is real wacky. But the reason why I'm super excited. What'd you say? Yeah, very. And so what I'm excited about this game for is I'm super into like these startup games where it's like you have this little business, you got to build it up, and you also got to employ it. And so Food Chain Magnate was a game I played at BGG Con like last year, and we played a little bit with Tona and Victor at like one of the original WobCon Springs. I want to say in like 19 or 20 or whatever. Like it was super early, but yeah, yeah. Yeah, but this game is one of those games where it's like it's worker placement, obviously, but it's just like your workers are literally going to build out like this whole fleet of galactic spaceships that are like legit meant to like flex on the other homies. And so I just love games that are super in the weeds of like building a business from go. So like anytime there's like marketing and advertisement as well as like employment, like those kind of games just kick it up a notch. I saw like a little bit of like a 5 minute playthrough where anytime you put a little like put one of your workers down, somebody can kick you off, so you can never share a spot, but like nobody can ever block a spot. The incentive is if anytime you get kicked off, you have like 4 slots you can place your little homie on, and it's like a little hand symbol. That hand symbol allows you to select a like a got kicked off bonus, and so you can upgrade those tiles. So it's almost just like you kind of pressure people into like you go somewhere where it might not be necessarily advantageous, knowing you're gonna get kicked off, to like upgrade your tile and get something like really really cool. So on the surface, this game's gonna look real sick. I got 2 of the expansions and the deluxe bit, so very excited for this to hit the table in February.
And it's that tool artwork.
I was about
You
to
can't go
say, dude.
wrong
I was
with
like, this
that.
kind of looks like Kanban EV. It's Tool.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Ian O'Toole. You know, he is definitely one of the goats when it comes to graphic design and basically being able to design the iconography around a board game. So definitely, if he has his name attached to this, it's probably going to be a heat.
This looks like a display piece. This is one of those games you put in like facing out from the shelf, so everyone sees it.
Yes. Yeah, it reserved its own square in the Calixus. Yeah. So, staying in that same vein, a game that is coming soon to Kickstarter is called Founder. So, I don't know if you guys are getting ads, but like I intentionally click on ads for board games, even if I'm not into the game that they're adding, because it's just like the more I click on the ads, the more like lit board games and the more lit Kickstarters I get. So, this was one that I was just like, oh, my phone must be like listening to me. So, this game is called Founder. So, in Founder, players are startup owners who must take their product idea and turn it into a business. So you got to outsell, outship, and out earn the competition to win. So this is a 2 to 4 player economy building game coming soon to Kickstarter. So what drew me to this game is that it kind of looks like a streamlined food chain where you don't necessarily start with like plots on the board. Like your player board is your business. So you're not necessarily having to do like the ins and out of do I sell to this house or do I sell to that house? You have to attract your own customers. So like you had to use a little bit of marketing to attract your customers. And a big part of the game is you are hiring staff and like you have like this little I think it's a 3x3 that shows like that gives you the opportunity to either add inventory, attract customers, convert customers to loyalists, which I think gives you bonus points for anytime you sell to those customers. You can cut costs, so you can like be an asshole and like lay people off if you don't need them anymore. You can also hire people. All the good makings of like literally from startup to like mega corporation. So it's almost just like this is like the food chain before food chain magnets. So like it's like you're like a little lemonade stand. Got to get that bread up to become like an actual food chain magnate and like start expanding. So this looks extremely fire to me. And it's also one of those games where the components and the boards are really smart. So as part of the game, you have to like expand your inventory. So like you have like 4 slots to start with, but they have like this little pulley mechanism to where like if you like start sliding up on it, like it reveals more squares. So like that's where you put your like your extra in like your extra inventory. The pricing menu works that way, and as well as another few slots. So it looks like a really really smart, and it looks like it's gonna be a really well done game.
Dude, I love a little pull-out mechanism, dude. It's so satisfying.
It is, and everything like just fitting on one board. I also love. So it's not like components like just literally everywhere. You're like jockeying for space on the table. Everything is all contained in like one board.
Dude, the website says 2 to 4 players, 45 minutes.
It looks like they're really going ham on the components as well. They look like pretty top tier, to be honest, and definitely seems like it's like down your alley, Aaron, for sure.
Yeah, and like if they also do this thing where I kind of don't really like, where it's like, yo, sign up for our email to like know when we kick off on Kickstarter. I'm like, great, I can do that. They're like, yo, but before, now that we got your attention, do you want like this deluxe piece? So it's like a gold bar. And they're like, yo, if you give us $1 right now, just to lock it
Yo,
in,
Mm.
we'll have that ready for you. And I'm just like, no,
bro,
I'm
it's
not
it's
I'm
it's
not gonna
just
do
a
that.
deposit, bro. It's just a deposit.
Literally, it's safe, it's secure, and it's just $1.
It's just
Like,
$1.
granted, I did that for hegemony and nothing went wrong, but I was just like, I don't
I
really
don't
want to do this
trust you.
anymore. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
like,
I feel that.
I don't really want to do that, and it's like $1 just to get grifted out of far more, and it's like,
Yeah. Well, that's Founder. I actually have two Kickstarters that I feel the people need to know about.
For people.
The first one's gonna be Darwin's Journey, the expansion Oceania. Basically, I'll kind of go over it quickly over Darwin's Journey. It's basically a worker placement game designed by Simone Lucidacci and Nestore Mangone. Hopefully, I didn't just butcher that. But
Is
basically,
that related to Luigi Mangione?
Ooh. It's set in this 19th century, and basically, players are immersed, basically with Charles Darwin's, how he went to explore the Galapagos Islands, studying, evolution and all that, right? Basically, you're taking on the role as explorers, trying to gain knowledge, collect specimens, sending them back to museums, and earning prestige. A lot your worker placement game with a lot of different little moving parts that you're able to move around. Basically choose where you want to go and be able to get those points. The way you win is again, but through exploration, specimen collection, objectives, correspondence, skill development. It's a good game. There's a lot of planning, and you have to basically balance your short-term actions in order for them to synergize if you have like a longer strategy. But if you're able to kind of manage your resources and you're exploring effectively and collecting the objectives and specimen that you need to, basically that'll win you the game, right? The game itself is really fun. I definitely encourage people to check it out if you're into the heavier Euros. I think the theme carries on well and the artwork's really good. But if you never got the chance to either play that or you just haven't had a copy, now there will be a Kickstarter. If it's not out yet, it will be soon, called Darwin's Journey Oceania, where you can actually get the expansion along with the collector's edition of the actual base game. Basically, what the expansion is doing is just adding a completely new island, the Pacific Islands, where you're able to, kind of have new specimens. You get dual player boards. You get a post office, university. So they're adding a lot more stuff that you can do. And again, there's basically the Founders Edition, Collector's Edition, which kind of deluxeifies your game. I would say that this game would be worth it definitely to get it deluxeified, just because it's always nice to be playing with deluxe components. And it's just like really pretty to look at once it has a great table presence. But that is Darwin's Journey. Have y'all heard of that one?
I have. It was on my to hit list, but hearing that they got some good DLC coming out, I might need to hodl, wait for the DLC to come, and just play that, get like a real good juicy first experience.
Yeah, and I own Darwin's Journey, the regular version, but I'm considering backing it to get the deluxe edition, collector's
Yo.
edition, with the expansion. And
But
then
what are you gonna do with that
trading.
old copy? There you go,
Bro,
baby.
I'm a math trade, baby. math trade.
Traded away.
The second Kickstarter that I kind of wanted to bring up was, y'all ever heard of a little game called Everdell?
Everdell.
Bruh, say it ain't
Don't get
so.
me started.
So basically, Everdell is going to be. It was made by Starling Games. It is the one of their. I at least know of Everdell because of this, but basically it's their evergreen game. They call them evergreen games, which is basically your Terraforming Mars, your Ark Nova. It's basically the game that's like, this is that Wingspan, right? These are going to be our cash cows. We can definitely milk these Everdell is a worker placement and tableau building game, basically set in a woodland world. Players will act as leaders of critter communities, building their cities with characters and constructions over the course of 4 seasons. Basically, the game is rich with thematic storytelling, evoking the sense of creating a bustling, harmonious town amid the beauty of nature. The way the game works is it progresses over the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season represents a round of gameplay where players have to manage resources, place workers, and build their city. While placing their workers, the critters have to gather resources such as twigs, resin, pebbles, and berries from different locations on the board, including some basic spots, forest cards, and events. The tableau building really comes in when the players have to spend their resources to play cards into their quote unquote city, which is the tableau. Basically, the cards are split into two types. There's critters and constructions. Your city can always hold up to 15 cards. For the seasons, after a player has used all their workers and taken their actions, they prepare for the next season, gaining new workers and bonuses until all players have finished the final season, autumn. The way you win this game is you must have the most victory points at the end of the game. And you get those victory points from cards played into your city, achieved events, certain cards that grant bonus points based on conditions, and resources left over at the end of the game. Basically that's Everdell in a nutshell. No pun intended.
Everdell ends up being, had like 20 different expansions, right? I don't actually know how many, but they ended up having quite a few. And what was so unique about this game is that it had like this great table presence because it had a giant tree that would hold all these cards. So anyone seeing this game, you'd see this giant tree being played on, and of course it's gonna grab everyone's attention. And so they ended up coming out with 4 different expansions, and then they came out with the big collector's box edition, which is I think basically like the size of like a desktop PC. It's ginormous. And I've read in multiple places that actually it becomes harder to play it all because all the expansions just kind of like I think it's recommended to play like with certain expansions at a time versus not everything at once. So it just kind of gets really convoluted at times. But that's not the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter ends up being, they said they were done making Everdell, but that was until they made Farshore. So Farshore ended up being basically like, hey, you have your big boy, big collector's edition of Everdell, but now you can play Everdell easier, faster, and stronger with Farshore. So basically it takes everything that Everdell does and just kind of simplifies it. After that, which comes to what we are here now, they're coming out with Everdell Silverfrost. So basically, this campaign is currently out now. It's using the same artwork as the same designer, the same artist as all the other Everdells, and basically, it's supposed to be a more complex and strategy game. Compared to the standard Everdell or of course Farshore, which is the standalone copy after all of Everdell and its expansions. I personally haven't really thought about it. I know it's huge in the board game market. People love the Everdell theme, and they love the fact that there's all these different critters. How do you guys feel about Everdell Farshore, or not Farshore? Sorry, Silverfrost.
So let me dive into these DMs real quick because it's one of those things where it's like on the surface, I get it. They're milking this so hard. And it's one of those things, dude, where it's just like how much money are, and it's like, is this the only game y'all play? Like when I think about people who have the Everdell big box, they fall into like one or two categories. 99% of these people are just like the hey, I bought Everdell, then I bought like 2 or 3 expansions, and it's like you're almost like incentivized to continue building the game out through these expansions because it's just like this is kind of the only game we play. Like we might not necessarily play anything else because like all we have really is Everdell, so like this is fine. But it's a game that I just pillage. I would never buy Everdell because of all the components and all the like all the stuff that is involved with it. I just missed the boat. It's like getting into Villainous now. It's like there's too many expansions. There's too much to like just get into, and now these people are getting like hit with even more. So like this is a standalone game, so it doesn't add to the Everdell, and it's like it almost feels like they're just branching out to just be like, yo, we fucked them up the first time with big box. We about to fuck them up again, and it's just like, damn, dude, like this is crazy.
Yeah, and to be honest, it might be worth it if you've never dived into Everdell, period, and you kind of want to get a taste of what Everdell has to offer, because this standalone comes with like a 2D mountain, kind of like the tree, but now it's a mountain that showcases the cards and stuff. So it still offers, that table presence. It's basically, still getting that Everdell experience, but maybe, you just want the base game for it. You want to kind of see what it's all about, and then maybe it's like a good link to being able to play the big box or whatever you want, right? And I'm not saying Everdell's a bad game in any way, shape, or form. It's more along the lines of, like, you're right. It's gotten to the point where it's like, well, am I in the position where I want all Everdell? You know what I mean? So I think I would say if you are new to Everdell, period, and you just want to try the base game out first, maybe just get the base Everdell game. Or if you want to get the newest hype of Everdell without having to get everything across the land, then just go ahead and try Silverfrost. Maybe you'll like it. So, I think there's a little bit for everyone on this one. What do you think, Vic?
Well, that's so funny that you were saying, like, Everdell is one of those evergreen games, like, Team Mars and stuff. Because I did not know that. Because my friend has Everdell, and we played it, and we were like, oh, cool. And then, we've played it, like, we probably get a play in, like, once or twice a year. And we're like, oh, cool. But yeah, I never even realized it had all these expansions and that it was, like, still going on. And I saw that big box one time at my FLGS, and like I sent it as a joke. I was like, why is there a giant box for Everdell? It's just like one game. I did not know it had all these expansions, and that there was like a Far Shore remix, and now there's Silverfrost. I just had no idea people were that into Everdell. Because I just played the base game, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm not like raring to play it again immediately, but like once or twice a year, someone's like, you want to play Everdell? I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I like those little berries. It's one of those games where you want to eat the components.
Yeah, those berries look mad nutritious.
But yeah, like I said, if you've never delved into the Everdell world, it might be worth checking out this Kickstarter, I think. So that's Everdell Silverfrost.
Thanks for tuning in to the WeAreBoard Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and found a little inspiration for your next game night. For more board game content and episode show notes, visit our website, wapod.com, where you'll find everything you need, including updates and more. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, WeAreBoard, for reviews, playthroughs, and extra content. You can also connect with us on Instagram at WeAreBoard for updates, behind the scenes, fun, and all the board game eye candy you can handle. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and remember, every roll, deal, and turn tells a story. What's yours?